Thank you everybody for your attendance today at the Central Tablelands Water Ordinary Meeting, 17th of December 2025. This is our first fully online live streamed meeting, so a bit of a test of what we're going to be doing from next year onwards. So smile sweetly at the camera. And thank you so much for coming. Look, I'd like to start, before we really start proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that a horrendous thing happened earlier on this week in Sydney with the terror attack in Bondi, which even though it doesn't affect us directly, I think it affects everybody in this country as an event which strikes at the heart of what we consider to be valuable in this country. So I'd like us to show our respect for those who were killed and injured and their families with a minute's silence. So if we could all be upstanding, please. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people, who are the traditional custodians of the lands. I would also like to pay respect to their people, both past and present, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who are present or who may be watching our live stream. In accordance with Central Tablelands Water Code of Meeting Practice, this meeting is live streamed for the first time. The live stream will allow members of the public to view the proceedings of the council meetings. The objective of this service is to eliminate geographic and other access barriers for the community wishing to learn more about council's decision-making processes. By speaking at a council meeting, you agree to be audio and visually recorded. Please ensure that when you speak at this council meeting, you are respectful to others and always use appropriate language. Whilst council will make every effort to ensure that live streaming service is available, it takes no responsibility for and cannot be held liable for technical issues beyond its control. Live streaming is a free public service and is an official record of council meetings. Minutes will be made of all council meetings and published within 2 weeks after the meeting. For a copy of the recording or the minutes, please refer to council's website. Council does not accept any responsibility for any verbal comments made during council meetings which may be inaccurate, incorrect, defamatory or contrary to law, and does not warrant nor represent that the material or statements made during the meeting are complete, reliable, accurate or free from error. The live stream is primarily set up to capture the proceedings of the council meeting, and members of the public attending a council meeting need to be aware that they may be recorded as part of the proceedings. I'll move to item 4, which is apologies and applications for leave of absence. I think we've got a full quota here, so just a mover. A move by Councillor Goswich, seconded by Councillor Nash. I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Item 5, confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. A mover. Councillor Paulette, seconded by Councillor Newstead. Are there any issues with the minutes? Any comments, questions about the minutes? Nothing? Okay. All right, I'll move that. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Item 6, matters arising from previous meetings. Nothing? I don't think we need to move that. I'll move on. Item 7, disclosures of interest. Mover, Councillor Goswich, seconded by Councillor Paulette. Does anyone have any disclosure of interest?
No.
Nothing to declare? I've got nothing to declare. Okay, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Item 8, chairperson's minutes, which is in the business papers there. I'll move that, which I can. Any questions or comments? Okay, it's really just my reflection, I should say, from the LG New South Wales conference, which Councillor Paulette and the General Manager and I attended, which was very good. So if there's no comments, questions, okay, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye, carried. Item 9, I believe, we're up to council representation. Nothing, there's nothing from anybody. Look, just if when you get a chance, if just send through anything that any representation you've had to the staff, and I obviously attended the conference.
I was at the conference.
Marlene was at the conference, Councillor Paulette was at the conference, Charlie was at the conference, I was at the conference. Charlie and I attended a meeting with the JO in Sydney, with Parliament. And I attended another JO meeting. There's a new JO stop committee. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it's the portfolio mayors. That's it, portfolio mayors. And there's a new one on climate change. So I've been voted onto that one as well. So I attended a meeting with that. Okay, moving on to item 10, notices of motion. General Manager? There are no notices of motion. 11, reports of staff. So 11.1, which is on page. Sorry, bear with me. Sorry?
13.
Sorry, I just have to find it myself. There we go. Okay, thank you. 11.1, which is a report from the New South Wales JO board meeting on the 12th of November. Recommendation there, the council note the report from the Central New South Wales JO board meeting on the 12th of November. Could I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Newstead, seconded by Councillor Best. General Manager, do you want to talk about that one? Or
The board meeting in general, or I guess the highlight probably was the next day with the ministers. The opportunity to question ministers who gave up their time, which was good. I suppose in the water space, Minister Jackson attended. Look, it's just the normal. I suppose she's pretty keen on making sure that the allocated funds have been made available to councils for projects, that those projects get delivered. So we at CTW are beneficiaries of some of those funds, so we're getting on with that work. But no news on future funding. The Productivity Commissioner response from the government is just they're going to work on that for the next couple of years to try and come up with a framework. So that they were the highlights, I suppose, from my perspective in relation to water.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Oh, yes,
Sorry.
Councillor Bosworth.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the General Manager. I just noticed on the JO stuff with the spend on aggregate contracts, like Bathurst and Orange seem to use the Water Utilities Alliance contracts. Is there any reason we don't seem to use it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, we do actually use them
Okay.
when it's requirement through the alliance. So one of late that we just signed off to was the revaluation.
Yep.
So we joined up with that. You'll see also in there we take benefit of the JO's training. They've done some work on the training space, so we're a large beneficiary of that. So yeah, we do take advantage of it when the opportunity
Yep, cool.
presents.
No, I just saw Bathurst and Orange, big dollars spent with them. I just wondered, it's funny to see all those zeros there, that's all. For some reason.
Mm. A lot of the stuff the JO do is appreciated for general purpose councils.
Yep.
As well. So.
I just saw the Water Utilities one, that's all.
Yeah.
No further questions? Okay, I'll put that. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Item 11.2, the report from the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference. Delegates report that recommendation there, the Council notes the delegates report on the annual conference. Mover, perhaps Council Council Parlett, perhaps, and seconded by Councillor Newstead. Thank you, Councillor Parlett, for your report. It's excellent, thank you. Would you like to speak to that, or?
It's probably covered things pretty well there, but I think probably the biggest topics that were there, and that one that particularly relates to us was the increased funding support for local water utilities. Again, the issue of FAGS funding was hotly, debated and pushed because, as we all know, we need that increased. Housing, the housing crisis and the implementation of what's going on was really questioned by many councils there, so it is impacting on our communities. Housing crisis, the way it's being done at the moment, it isn't being satisfactorily managed as we are perceiving and seeing as councils. So that was really a hot topic of debate. Renewable energy, of course, again, another topic. Model code of meeting practice. Everyone questioning the new recommendations and declared natural disasters. So it was a very worthwhile time spent. I think I gained a lot of connections and things, which was good. I'm talking to other women, and it was because I attended the women's breakfast. That was rather inspiring, and talking to female deputy mayors and mayors, it was quite interesting to see what was happening in their spaces and how they were feeling. So thank you for the opportunity for being able to attend. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That was excellent. Councillor Nash, you attended. You were there. Did you want to say anything about anything?
No, I think Council Parliament has covered most of it, but I always find it well worth going. Yeah, I do. Housing was just the main thing, wasn't it, really? It was just brought up all the time. And so it should be, I suppose. There's lots of people that are homeless, so it was very interesting. Thank you.
And my take on it was, actually what I wrote into the Chairman's minute really was that in terms of its impact on us, water security, water resilience in our region is one of the Achilles heels for any sort of development, and you know we can support any agenda that the state government may have on development of affordable housing by providing water security, and so it just provides us with an extra lever to argue with the state government that we need to fix that issue before developing more housing in the region. So that's how it affects us. But look, I mean there are other concerns about the way in which the state government is in fact implementing some of their recent changes, and that was certainly borne out by the questioning that occurred at the conference. It was quite testy at times. Are there any questions from people who weren't there? Okay. Well, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. And thank you, Councillor Parliament, for your item 11.3, Strategic Projects Stage 2, the Safe and Secure Water Program. The recommendation there is that Council endorse the project budget of $375,348 ex-GST on the basis that it is funded 50-50 with the New South Wales Government, to be reflected in the December quarterly budget review statement. Secondly, to accept the quote of $60,117 ex-GST from City Water Technology for the assessment of the capacity of the Blaney and Carcourt water treatment plants. And thirdly, to accept the quote of $89,290 ex-GST from New South Wales Public Works for the modelling of the reticulation network in Blaney, Canowindra and Millthorpe to have a mover. Councillor Goswich, and the seconder, Councillor Nash. Thank you. General Manager?
Through Mr. Chair, there's a few items in here. Just to note that there was originally $300,000 in the budget to progress through this project. It was split into over 2 stages early on in the piece to understand what the likely costs of the project are to be. So the department has enabled us to split the project into 2. Stage 1 was specifically for developing scope of work and understanding costings for delivery of the 9 tasks. So that work is now complete, and we are in consultation with the department on putting together the deed for stage 2. Again, that's for the delivery of the 9 tasks of the project, but it has come in above the budget at $375,000. You might recall back in August, we had a budget estimate when we did some rework of it, came in around $340,000, so it's a bit more than that. Partly the reason it is a little bit more is we're taking an opportunity for the revaluation, which the next cycle is next financial year. So to Councillor Goswich's point about the JO Alliance, so we've signed up with the Alliance bulk procurement for the revaluation contract. We've requested that that be brought forward and align it with this project to enable more detail of our assets that will help to feed into our asset management plan, which is a key component of this project. So we're leveraging the revaluation and a separate contract to try to bring this together. So that money was already allocated. There's also some internal staff costs that we've discussed with DQ to say that this is not business as usual. These are specific projects, and our staff, some of our staff will be required to undertake that. So of the 9 tasks, there's 2 specific ones that are subject matter expert consultants, and that's part of the recommendation. The majority of the other tasks will be undertaken in-house and with other consultants for assistance. So that's it in a nutshell. You see in the report, it's not a tender, but we did treat two tasks and engaging the consultants similar to that of a tender process. So the document's written in such a way to identify the process that we went through to engage or select the preferred consultants. And so I just wanted to put that to council and put those recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Goswich.
I suppose Public Works, probably time frame. They're renowned for running late. Is that going to affect us with what we're doing? And will they, probably a second question which involves that, are the two going to work together, the two, because some of them will cross over between the two, I suppose, capacity with reservoir capacities and the 12 meg res and stuff like that?
So the two, to answer the first part of the question, sorry,
Yep.
through you, Mr. Chair. So one of the criteria was timing, and they've advised us that they are able to start the work as soon as we give them the signed offer.
Yep.
So we take it on face value.
Yep.
There's no real penalties, I guess, for running late. We've got a time frame we're trying to stick to with the department
Yep.
for getting these projects through. So we will maintain pressure on Public Works to undertake that. The two components that you referred to, the second part of the question, is the two tasks. One is to assess the capacity of each of the treatment plants. The other one task was to look at the hydraulic analysis of the three towns in the village of Millthorpe. So they are separate.
Yep.
And they're not reliant on one another, but they will be operating simultaneously. So particularly things like population projection, so that information we fed to both consultants, and that information we used to do the model and assessments.
Cool, thank you.
Just with the Public Works sense, and Public Works, they're going to make recommendations to us, or they're only just going to do the modelling and do the investigation, or are they going to recommend that we do anything after that?
So the intention of the model is to understand what is the current capacity, and then when we've got development that come in, i.e. say for Millthorpe there's a 50 lot subdivision.
Yep.
So we can put that into the model and understand can the capacity of the network cater for a 50 lot subdivision in that area? And if not, what are the pinch points? And so that we can go to the developer and say that should you wish to proceed with a development, these are the areas that need to be augmented, renewed, upmade, whatever it might be, to enable that development to go ahead and for us to continue to provide the level of service that we need to. So that's the intention of
Yeah, so
that.
Public Works aren't just going to come and say, oh, you need to do this, 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 and this. They're just, yeah. I'm very cautious of Public Works with the amount of money they spend. I think money falls from trees up here. But
Yeah. So, no, the model is there for us.
Yep.
We own the model,
Yep.
which will be important so that any future developments in those three areas that we can react fairly quickly to identify can we do it or not, or what are the constraints.
Yep.
So will this come with training of staff to be able to update the model?
The model itself is a software package that we don't have in-house, and I don't have staff currently that have the technical capability to use the model or adapt the model. So if we needed that sort of work done, we would still need a consultant to do it.
Okay.
If we get staff in the future, however, that have experience with the model, we would absolutely use it ourselves.
Mm.
It is a technical and complex software package, so you've got to have experience and knowledge of how to use it.
Any further questions? Comments? No? Okay, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. 11.4, Principles for Decision Making Belobula Water Security Project. We've had some discussion about this prior to this meeting, but anyway, the recommendation here is that the council, 1, endorse the principles outlined in this report as the foundation for decision making on the Belobula Water Security Project. 2, incorporate the principles into all Belobula Water Security Project planning, assessment and reporting processes. And 3, advocate for ongoing stakeholder engagement and transparent communication throughout the project life cycle by the Belobula Water Security Project Control Group. Do I have a mover? Councillor Parlett, and seconder, Councillor Best. General Manager, would you like to speak to this one?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. This is a document that is really trying to identify the key principles of, as the board, what are the principles that you're willing to accept, and enables me through the PCG to have a stronger advocation on those principles as we move through the project. It really became apparent that whilst we've said a lot of things within our meetings, that we didn't have it documented, and that's going to become critical as evidence and support for the principles that CTW wish to uphold. So that's why we've put together this list, and I think it's very much strategic focus. It's a high level, and there's a lot that needs to sit underneath this, and I guess that's the job, my job through the PCG, to continue to advocate and push for the things that feed down from these strategies into the project as it continues. So that's what we wanted to pull together. We wanted to make sure that the councillors are supportive of those principles and that there is consensus on that, so that there is strength in having a documented approach and the principles for the strategy that CTW are willing to accept.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Good metaphor.
So, I just figured you might want to say something.
No, they're very good. I think they're really, really good. There's only one I'd probably add if it was possible, which would be just a small section in 5. I think it's really important that we make it known to them that if they, particularly projects, that we need some assurances that any infrastructure changes or recommendations won't really increase or constrain or create any additional cost if we're actually doing future augmentations to the dam. We can't have them say, "Oh, this is our best thing," but if the augmentation of the dam is not part of that it doesn't put an additional cost on us in the future if we have to go and do that ourselves. Because why would we take that on? Well, when our priority is raising the level of the dam, why would we take on something that you recommend to us if it's going to cause that to be more expensive?
Very good point.
I just think that's just, we shouldn't, our job is for our 15,000, people who use our water, and that's to be our priority.
It's like it'd be another one, no more studies. Do this next one, because this is what, the 4th one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But whatever they come back with, it can't create an additional cost for us. If you're talking about, you've got in there really good about how it shouldn't increase the burden on our ratepayer, all that sort of stuff, and increase our cost of our water. Well, it shouldn't also increase the cost of our infrastructure. We have to do it ourselves in 10 years' time. We can't add another $1 million to it just because we've got to do it with their piping or whatever, that was also.
So do we have some words around that? Charlie and I was...
I think it's, you covered massive, a lot of points, and it's really concise and really well written.
This is, obviously everyone's had a chance to look at the draft and make comment and make suggestions. But look, we're both quite happy if anyone wants to make any further amendments to this. We just want to make sure that there is a really strong message coming from this board that Charlie can then take to the PCG. He's got a document there that we endorse, and we're all in solid agreement with. So if there's anything that you would want to add like that, any suggestions, I'm very happy to add it as long as everyone's happy with the wording. So if there is anything there, so do we have some words for that?
You want me to read what I just put?
Okay, yep.
So I just, under financial sustainability and affordability strategic focus, after the project must deliver value for money to CTW customer base, balancing capital and operational costs with affordability for customers. All right, after that, the project provides assurances that any infrastructure changes recommended will not increase, constrain or impose additional costs on the future augmentation of the dam. I'm happy to...
Is it okay if you could email that through?
That's not right, but as long as it's just the principle, you know what I mean? The principle is of any, you know, they don't come along and impose on something which is going to, which just stops us from doing extra work on the dam in the future.
Yeah. Councillor Parlett?
Through you, Mr Chair, can we just add there affordability for customers and CTW? Because that leaves it open to any other hidden costs, because it may not just be the dam. I just think you've covered it all
Yeah,
there.
you've got in whole of life costs.
Whole of life
considered,
costs
but I think-
should be considered, so that's where you've covered that. I think you know, you can always argue you have put that in there, but if you do add those words and CTW after customers, I think then that would cover you for anything extra, not just the dam, because we may have pipes or something else going to, you know, that need to be renewed. So it just, if you're too specific, and you may miss out on something. So, I don't know, but I just think adding and CTW.
We've already had this discussion between the two of us about how specific this should be and how strategic or sort of motherhoody it should be. We want to capture as much as possible, but we also want to highlight key points that have to be pushed. For example, the ownership. You know, we want to make sure that they understand that we will remain the asset owner. That's a strong statement. You know, we are the owner and operator of Lake Rollins, and we want that to continue. So whereas some of the other, I was a bit concerned that some of the original wordings were a little bit too similar to the original strategic plan of this project, and then DQ will just say, well, we're already doing that. They'll just go, tick, we're already doing that. So they'll just ignore it. Whereas I would like to have seen something really quite specific. For example, we've incorporated in there, the project is to incorporate the findings of the sub-regional town water strategy stage 1. I mean, that's a specific thing that we would like to see. You know, I think we've all talked about it and agreed with that. That's something that should be there. So yeah, so it's difficult to work out what level this should be. Look, I'm happy with your wording, if you want to pass it through. I'm also, happy with your wording, Councillor Parlett. I don't mind either. But it's, as long as it captures whatever wording, if you can pass on
that's right. I'll just
to Charlie
I think it's
afterwards.
covered by it, but I just thought specifically our priority has been raising the dam wall, and we don't want anything they do to affect it if that in future, if we can do it ourselves. That's if we have to, if this comes back and says, well, no, we're just going to do a pipeline, well, then we're left carrying the bag again, and we don't want any of the infrastructure they recommend to impact on that.
Exactly. That's
So where's this actually going, did you say? Where is this actually going to?
Sits on our bookshelf.
Oh,
It can be
right.
pulled out at any moment.
Oh, okay. Oh.
We can pass
It's
on
a
the
statement.
project.
It's basically a statement of our view. It's how we perceive this project to operate, and so our engagement with DQ and our engagement with the project team should have these principles front and centre. This is CTW's view, and so Charlie can go into meetings with him and say, I've spoken to the board have these key priorities, and I'm not going to move from that because that's what the board has directed me to do. So, yeah. So it provides more support for Charlie when he goes into these meetings with DQ.
Yeah, that's fair enough, yeah. I just thought it was going somewhere.
Oh, well,
That's every other report.
Through you, Mr Chair, number 11 I felt was very important so that Charlie can give us relevant feedback.
yes.
Yes, because that was a really big issue, the non-disclosure situation, and I think now we need to be hearing what's going on to make informed decisions and to support the project. It's not been.
Yeah, but we've got the jam to do that, so I think that's enough.
Well, the engagement so far with the project has been substandard, and well, from them I should say. So that presentation that was given to us when we were in Grenfell was the poorest presentation I've ever seen coming from a state agency. And I used to work for the state agency, so.
Yeah, but we don't want to spoil our alliance with them.
Oh, I understand, but they need to step up to the plate as well, so. I think,
Oh, I thought the comments that we asked about peer review, and they said, well, yeah, we're going to peer review it ourselves, was absolutely bizarre. I thought, how can you spend that amount of money with no external, someone to look back and see whether or not you're doing the right thing? That was just, we'll do it ourselves. I know we don't want to upset them and all this sort of stuff, but the same token, they've got to realise some of those sort of things just aren't right. That's just not right.
it's just not how the world works.
Yeah.
Are there any more suggestions, comments, questions? So if you'll...
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just to recap on that, sorry.
Yep.
So, Councillor Best, you send an email with a few words. You're happy for me to see how to integrate those words
I'll
into...
show you what I've got straight after the meeting, that's fine.
Yeah. To progress this and get sign off, are we happy to do that outside of a council meeting, given that they're strategic principles for a specific project? But I recirculate this around to councillors to make sure that they're happy with the final version.
I'm not sure there's going to be that much change. I think
Only one phrase.
I think we've captured, as long as it captures the discussion that we've just had, I think we can endorse this today.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's going to slow it down. I won't put it in there, but I just think it's just something.
Yeah. If it captures either Councillor Best's wording or Councillor Pallard's wording, or the intent of that, then I think we can happily decide on that today.
That's, as a councillor, if that's what we feel, that's what I just said. To me, I don't want to agree to anything that gives us a cost in the future. Like that's what company. I think we should have a right to refuse something if it comes back and says, well, it's going to cost you a heap of money down the track when you need to increase the size of your dam, which is what we've been pushing for 25 years. So.
Yeah.
So through Mr. Chair as well, we've tried to articulate, if hypothetically there's the two options on the table at the moment, option one being the pipeline, option two being the raising of the wall. Hypothetically, if the option one was to be approved financial support through the government, etc., but the dam wall wasn't, we've tried to reference in here because we're going to have to do dam safety upgrades. The opportunity here was to leverage, while we're doing the augmentation of the dam, we're strengthening and complying with the dam safety regulations. So what we've articulated in here also is to say that we don't want to miss that opportunity. We want to avoid those costs. So that goes to the point of saying we can't not do the dam wall and just do option one. But we can certainly articulate that a bit clearer,
Yeah,
which I think is your.
I know what you're getting at, yeah. And I said, the dam wall work is going to cost us a lot of money if we don't get this, then it's something that's another cost. But I just think if you're doing engineering plans, you should also look at the, like you said, the whole life and the whole thing and say, well, we don't want to move a cost on the future that we have to bear ourselves.
Yeah.
That was all. I just, obviously, why would we accept on something that's in the future could cost us another $3 or $4 million, something like that?
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
just,
Yep.
and they, if you talk about engineering, they can, if they understand that in engineering, surely they can design for that.
So my suggestion, who were the mover and seconder for that? So are you happy for
Yes.
follow my suggestion?
Yeah.
That we'll just do that minor change just to capture those views?
Yeah.
And then so if you're happy with that, okay. Well, if there's no more questions, comments, Councillor Newstead's looking, he's about to say something, I can tell.
I do want to say something, but I won't.
No.
Just very frustrating, Mr Chair, and the cost to do the business case in that $7 million, I still can't get my head around that. I think I even asked it
You did.
what it was, and there was no response.
No response.
They couldn't give us any clue as to what the money's been spent on. Like, it's $7 million is, I don't know, I just find that ridiculous.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. 11.5. Operations and project updates. Recommendation that council note the update provided on operations and project currently underway. Can I have a mover? Councillor Newstead, seconded by Councillor Gostwich. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'll take the report as read, but I would like to just call out a couple of items from the report. The sub-regional town water strategy, that we have been successful through the National Water Grid. And that project is an alliance between Orange City Council, Cabong Council and CTW to deliver the second phase, which will be a preliminary business case. So that has been announced as a 50-50 funding from the federal government. The Chair and I attended a meeting with the Minister and the other council representatives a couple of months ago now to just seek support from the government for this project, both from a technical perspective for staff who are subject matter experts in the department to assist, but also from a financial perspective. We felt that the state government should also contribute to this project financially. And we received a letter back only a week or so ago to say that essentially no to both, which was extremely disappointing. And I responded to Mr. Donato, who made the representation on our behalf of the disappointment that the government have felt, the state government that is, have felt that they don't need to support this project seemingly in any way. And it's quite clear in their strategic document for the Lachlan water sharing strategy that they are the lead agent for this project, and yet they're showing no leadership. So it was extremely disappointing to receive that correspondence from the Minister. We will be meeting, the three councils will be meeting in the new year to commence the project, and I've asked the other general managers from the other councils to put a letter of support into Mr. Donato to again make representation on their behalf and expressed that disappointment. So we'll continue to advocate for government support in that space. Having said that, the project is too important, again, not to proceed, and we will proceed, and the councils will take charge of this, and that we'll make sure the outcomes support the water security for our regions, and we'll make a good job of it without the government support if need be. The second item I'd like to just bring to the council's attention was under the Goolagong bore. You'll see reference there to manganese. The health targets for manganese were 0.5 milligrams per litre. In July this year, they dropped that figure to 0.1 milligram. The Goolagong bore, actually, the manganese levels when we first started the pump up was about 0.185. So above the new target limit. We've since done an amount of flushing, and we've put the smaller bore on, which increases the chlorine concentration, which helps with some of the stripping out of the manganese. So we were able to get it down just below the 0.1, and we had to bring the bore on for an emergency situation that we had with a broken main last week. So I wanted to highlight that we're bound by regulation, and the Australian Drinking Water Guidelines stipulate now that this is the new level, and we're bound to comply with that. We're looking at our short-term options of mixing the water with potable supply, which realistically means the operational opportunities for that pump are restricted to potentially just Grenfell. So we won't be able to send that water through the north because we need the potable water to come through to be able to mix it. So that's our short-term solution, which we'll probably do this season. And we're looking at our medium and longer term solutions, which might have to be some form of a treatment process. So I just wanted to highlight that there's been changes in regulations. We're trying to comply. It seems as though the water quality is right on the border, so we've got to tread water and try and make this work to get us through the short term so that we can get a robust and rigorous longer term solution. It is problematic at the moment. So I just wanted to put the report and make those couple of comments. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Take questions if there's any.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one from me about the bore situation. You mentioned treatment options. Would that be just at the bore itself? So an extra shed with the gear in there to...
It's highly probable that probably the easiest solution for us is going to be some form of aeration.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a structure that has to be fabricated and installed above the existing reservoir. So that's what we're investigating at the moment.
Rough costs could be...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Who knows?
Yeah,
I'm
not massive, but not
prepared to say
trivial either.
It won't have 7 figures in it.
So through the chair, is this something that's happened a lot of time? This with this bore or not?
No, because as in July this year is when the targets
Changed.
levels
Right, yeah.
changed. So prior to that, we've never had a problem because we were always under the target limit.
Oh, right.
With the change in those regulation and the guidelines, it's meant that
Mm.
we're now on the limit.
It's a big change, isn't it?
Yeah.
From 0.5 to 0.1.
Yeah. Also, I did see somewhere where some of the smart meters were
Mm-hmm.
really bad.
Yes.
So are you being very careful with that?
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Good question. You've seen some media of late,
Oh, I
particularly
have.
out in the western city,
Yeah.
that's having some difficulty with their smart meters. It's for us, it's we're still in the investigation phase.
That's
so
good.
It's come at the right time for us to
Yeah.
say, here's a real life issue, what are you doing to prevent that from happening? So it's good timing, but we're still in that investigation phase and trying to understand that. We'll
Yeah.
take that issue on board.
Yeah, well, it's cost this council a fair bit
Yes.
of money, I think, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Just on the manganese, going back to the manganese, before, I'll
No, let's say you'll ask.
I'll let you have a chance.
Round and round we go.
We had a few years ago a bit of a manganese issue, water getting into Blaney through the Blaney water treatment plant. I can't quite remember what the levels were, but it certainly we had some problems with cloudy water and so on. And that was an issue of water coming out of Black Rollins.
After every rain.
Yeah, after heavy rain. So,
Yes.
what do we have? Do we have the equipment available at Blaney and I guess at Carcourt to be able to keep to limbo under that 0.1 milligrams?
So we have an ongoing monitoring program now, and typically the manganese levels start becoming a problem during the warmer months. So the operators are constantly monitoring, so we're doing our testing 3 times a week out at the dam. And there's the treatment process in place at the water treatment plants now that gets turned on should the levels show indication that the levels are going to increase, so that we try and pick it up early. So there's ongoing monitoring program, and we've got a treatment process that we can turn on when the need is required, but all the results are well underneath that black line.
Okay.
And in fact, there's an aesthetic limit of about 0.05 in the retic,
Okay.
and we sit underneath that.
Thank you.
Because it's hard to get rid out of the system, isn't it? Manganese is quite difficult to remove, isn't it? Yeah.
Well,
You can't just flocculate everything like that. It's got to be really, yeah.
it
Good bust.
you can. There's treatment. Aeration is a good one.
Yeah.
That's effective, and we use a polymer for trying to strip it out as well, which works pretty well.
Yeah.
There are treatment processes for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So and how at what point do we turn that ball off? Like if we start turning it in the summertime, have we got to get 2 consecutive ones, or is it is there testing that they turn around and say after that you have to shut it off and can't use that anymore? It's pretty important ball for us during the right times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's
critical, yeah.
Mm.
And look,
Yeah.
in this emergency last week, it was absolutely fundamental because we essentially lost water coming down from Carcourt water treatment plant.
Yeah.
And we needed that water, and it was coming back up into Canowindra.
Mm.
So it was feeding the southern part of our network. Absolutely critical. And we're just kind of fortunate we're just right on that limit. And if we're over the limit, I'm unclear as to what New South Wales Health's response would be in case of emergency.
Yeah, that's
So there's a serious, like there's emergency, it's short term, it's not prolonged use. We're arguing the same in terms we only use this bore during summer peak periods. So it's not prolonged, it's not used 12 months of the year. Health's response to that is, you've got to meet the guidelines. So we've got to have a process in place to give some assurance and verification that we're underneath the guideline limits. If we can't provide the verification of that, because they won't just trust our handwritten notes, we've got to have the verification. We're going through a project early next year, we'll start where we'll do chemistry sampling of the bore to determine the exact levels. So obviously the testing we undertake is not NADA lab, we do that internally. So we need the verification through a NADA lab Yeah, to determine that. At this point in time, short of being in drought, we've got a little bit of time up our sleeve, but we're working quickly as we can to make sure that we can turn this thing on come peak period. Short-term fix, we're going to mix the water, and that will give us a solution, but it is a short-term solution.
Yeah, I suppose that's what they change the guidelines, but have no support for us to bring anything up to those guidelines.
Right.
So you go back and say, well, hang on a minute, you've changed the goalposts. We now need some support to get this through, because when we need this, we've got to be able to turn this on, because this is imperative we have that during drought situations. It takes out a whole part of our system that we supply water to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's once again going back to state government saying, you keep making these rules and you keep forcing us to do it with no compensation or no ability, no financial assistance to do it. You write them back and say, mate, we're going to struggle with this, we need you to step up and help us with the process that can get this over the line. But, you know, that's a catch-22, because we're saying, okay, it's sort of all right if we flush it, and it might be okay, but if you go back to them and tell them that, we're basically saying, well, we're not going to be compliant.
Yeah.
So do you want to do that and ask for help? I mean, if it's, I don't know what's an aeration, like I said, how much is an aeration plant? Is it $100,000? Is it $200,000? You know.
Yeah, being a critical wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's critical for a large part of our bloody shires. Just don't know how do you approach that? Like, do you admit that you're going to be in trouble and say, help us now to fix the problem, or?
Well, certainly if we have to go down the route of new equipment, we'll just have to we'll just have to knock on their door and see what they can come up with, which will be nothing, of course, as we know, but we can always try.
At some point, just got to support us instead of changing things.
Oh, totally agree. Are there any further questions or comments on any of those items? I noticed that there's slight increase in the usage of the daily flows with big fluctuations based on the weather. So it's getting warmer, and so therefore flows are going up, but it's obviously we're getting a fair amount of summer storms coming through, which reduces our usage. So our public gallery down the back there will be noticing these numbers. Yes. Look, if there's no further comments, look, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Item 11.6, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, Eric. Recommendation there that Council note the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee minutes of the meeting held on 13th of November 2025 and endorse the updated 4-year internal audit plan for 25-26 through to 28-29 financial years. Could I have a mover? Councillor Boswich, seconded by Councillor Pallett. Thank you. Executive Manager Corporate Services, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll take the report and the minutes as read and just highlight that we are seeking endorsement of the updated 4-year plan to move it to run from 25-26 to 28-29. It was originally 24-25 commencement, and so that's just a new date for that. So that's all, unless anyone has any questions.
The superannuation looks like that's happening, is it, for the ARIC members?
Through Mr. Mayor? Yes, the superannuation, I can actually, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I might refer to Executive Management Accountant to cover that point.
Please go ahead.
Through you, Chair. So yes, superannuation does apply. That is the definite guidance that we've been given, and we are processing the back payment of superannuation, and we will start applying superannuation immediately. So it has been applied to the November meeting.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any, further questions, comments, issues? Nothing? Okay, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. 11.7 policy reviews. Oh, there's quite a few, and there's an extra one that came through, so
Yes.
we'll deal with it in this section if that's all right. If that's appropriate. So just be aware, everyone, that overnight you will have received an extra policy to look at, which I think has very few changes, if any.
That's correct.
Just minor updated
I'll
ones.
cover it in.
Yeah, you'll cover it in your, yeah.
Yeah.
So the recommendation there is that council endorse the following policies and place them on public display for a period of 28 days. I won't read them all out, you've got them there in your business papers. Secondly, if no substantial submissions are received during the public display period, documents be adopted. And thirdly, the policies endorsed under this recommendation shall take precedence over previous council resolutions where applicable. So just note that there are those 6 that are there, plus a 7th one, which you will have received overnight. Can I have a mover? Councillor Newstead and Councillor Goswich. Thank you. Corporate Service Manager.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to assume the documents are read, but I am happy. I wanted to just let you know that the 4, including the investment report, that were reviewed have very minor changes. The investment report has very minor changes. The related parties has met very minor changes, but the asset disposal and the GIPA reports have substantial changes, so there are very few track changes, otherwise it would have been very difficult to read. And basically the 99% of the document has been reproduced to bring it in line with legislation and guidelines required. And then there are 3 completely new policies that we have put forward, and they are the financial assistance and donations, the unconnected vacant land availability charge, and the statement of business ethics. So they are new policies that are required. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
The unconnected land one.
You want to start?
Yeah. I knew you had a problem with, Frank.
Councillor Gossage, do you want to speak to that?
I've got a couple. I think I've made one clear. For one, well, I've got one with probably the title package as well. We've got, my question is, what is substantial submissions? So if we get 2, is that substantial? Like we said, we're going to let it go through if we have substantial. So that's my first question. We can answer it if you want.
Okay, I'll answer that one through you, Mr. Mayor, because the vacant land policy I'll refer to the General Manager. The substantial generally means that if someone provides a submission that has changes to the actual policy, whether they, if it's just a minor format change or one word here and there but doesn't change the context of the policy, then that's not substantial. But if it does, then that is substantial and it will be brought back to council.
The way I read it was the amount of submissions we have. So, okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, that's how I read it too.
So on the vacant land, we said we're communicating with the public. Well, how are we communicating with the community who are not connected to the system, who have vacant land?
Thank you.
That's my first
Through
question.
Mr. Chair, I'll answer that. I'm happy to answer them as we go, if that's okay.
No, that's all right.
In terms of consultation and communication, so you're right, there are people who aren't yet connected and on our rate system who get the typical newsletter, who have been notified. There are notifications obviously done through business papers and etc., but we acknowledge not many people potentially read them. We've got a project early, I think it's in February, March, when we will be sending out a bulk newsletter to all of the catchment areas with the endeavour to try to capture those people who aren't yet on the rates and get notified through our rates system. So that's the opportunity, I suppose, at that time that we would pre-warn them, pre-advise them that there is this new fee that's been adopted, it'll be implemented. So acknowledge that there's going to be some people who will say, I didn't get a letter, I wasn't told. I think that's probably our best approach, to do a mail out to all of the residents and properties that are going to be potentially impacted by this. So we're getting, I guess, through our other councils, etc., some names of property owners because they may not live on the property. So we're trying to capture as many people as we can through that process, but acknowledge that there's no 100% foolproof way to do that.
Thank you. So the next question is, so Blaney Shire, I'll use that for example because that's I can find the most information with Blaney Shire. Blaney has joint rateable blocks where they've joined the rates together. Mandurama has a fair few of those, Lyndhurst. We get it then, and they haven't got connected with water. So CTW, are they going to do the joint rateable parcel, or are they going to do the blocks together? That's another question I've had.
Yeah, that's a good question. We're aware that there is a process in terms of rates that they can get concessions on if they own multiple lots and join them together. That's not the principle of this policy. The principle of this policy is it's based on the lot, the property. The property can be serviced if it meets the criteria, can be serviced, then the policy applies. So there's no opportunity through the policy to join 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parcels of land if you own them all across different areas. That's not captured in this policy. This policy addresses every lot that has access and is achieved, can be achieved to be serviced, that lot would attract the charge.
So I suppose, adding on to that before you jump in, Paul. So with that, I understand what you're doing it to raise some more funds. I did have a consumer or potential consumer who had this issue and then got quoted to put water on for $22,000. So she's going to have to pay, if she doesn't put the water on, she's going to have to pay the $44 and still not put the water on because she can't afford the $22,000. So we're not really encouraging people to join our system with this system. We're really just encouraging because the water main runs past their place, whether they use it or not. So I think we've really got to look at it and debate, is it worth it? And the extra cost of actually trying to implement this, which is open to other councillors.
Can I respond to that by saying there's principles in the policy?
Yeah.
And the principle, one of them is equity, and the equity is that there are people who haven't contributed to the operational costs of a service that can support their lot. The reality is there's cost associated with running a pipe past a property, whether they're connected or not.
Yeah, I understand that with fire protection.
So that's the, I guess the principle, one of the principles there is that we want anyone who has benefit from the system to contribute to that. And the principle is it's fair and reasonable that they should have to pay a vacant lot charge, which has been established as half of the minimum charge. So that's something that the council agreed to at setting of the fees and charges. There are there are going to be circumstances where it's not feasible to service a lot. It could be that it has to go underneath the railway line and the costs are prohibitive.
I think that, sorry to cut you off, but with that, we all already have services going under railway lines now.
Potentially.
So how are we going to say this person has to pay it? They're paying a service because they have a service, but the one next door doesn't have to do it. I think, like I said, I think we can't have grey area, and I think until we get the proper plan in place and the proper, for the whole system, okay, whether it's just the sewer blocks to start off with, like I know doing the research, Blaney had last financial year, 172 unconnected vacant blocks. But we had 3 new subdivisions in there now that it could come down to 100. That's just in our sewer system. We're not quite sure about Combined or Wedding because it's very hard to find whether you even charge yours. I don't think you do at the moment. So that's just a can of worms we're opening up in the future. I think at the moment, but I'll leave it to other councils to discuss.
Well, with Combine, they paid sewage for years and years and years before they got it. Is that what happens with Combine?
No, well, they already, this is different to that.
Unconnected, so-
That's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
So Molong, they would have already had it.
Yeah,
But we
but
just
they
put
still have
those.
to pay a pretty hefty
Yeah.
connection, I think. But what about the, these blocks you were talking about that are in one person owns? Are they next to each other or?
Okay. So here's one for example. There's one for sale at the moment in Carport, and you can drive past the highway, you see a sign, able to subdivide into 8 blocks. Currently it's on one title, but you're able to subdivide that. So with that, that could be 8 potentially
Customers.
customers, but also if someone just build a house, potentially there's 8 blocks there, so they're gonna have to pay close to $2,000 probably for the year without having water on.
Well,
I get you.
That's how I look at it. That's-
yeah, I don't look at it that way because I would have said if it needs to be subdivided, they feel they've got to go through the subdivision process. If it's an already subdivided block, it's a separate block which can be sold separate, which should incur the cost. So if there's
That's
100
different
blocks,
to the same though.
I didn't pick that up on there because I saw it as being if it's a subdivided. If you've got like saying if you've got 100 acres in town, let's face it, you're going to subdivide it in a heap. You're only going to pay one until you've actually gone through the subdivision process and made them all individual rateable blocks. If it's only rateable as 1, we would charge that as 1. If it's rateable as 10, we would charge it as 10. I fully support it. I think that someone sits on it, buys a block and has the water run past it and they don't contribute to the infrastructure or the cost of that infrastructure, the cost of maintenance, and then 10 years down the track they sell the block and they say, well, there's water available at the front. And you've made a profit on the land and you've done that, but you haven't contributed anything. The bloke up the end of the street, he's the one that's paying all to get that water, and he's the one that's contributing to keep the maintenance of all that in place. I agree with it. I think it should be something that should be done. And I said it's only limited to town limits. I get it. You can't charge those farmers that's running past their blocks and stuff like that. So in those town limits, I think there's a lot of people, the same thing. You buy a block and say, well, I'm going to sit on that and wait for 10 years and I'm going to sell it for a profit. Well, there has to be a cost to that. You have to contribute to that infrastructure because everyone else is maintaining that infrastructure for you so that you can make a profit in 10 years' time.
And can we make sure then that the infrastructure is right in the towns, ready to go? Like, that's been a problem with some of these smaller places, hasn't it? Like, it hasn't been there.
Yeah.
So the infrastructure's not there. But if the infrastructure, if we're charging them, the infrastructure's got to run past them.
Yeah.
You can't charge someone that if it's not running past,
Yeah.
you know?
Because
That was the thing that had to come up with one block.
Because the 225 is that specific to that. That's actually in the legislation.
It's in the legislation.
Yeah.
So to me, that's too big a distance, 225. It's a long way away.
It is a long way, isn't it?
It's if you've got a block and you've got to run a new connection 225 metres or say 224 metres, it's a big cost on you. And I'm a bit like Craig, because I had a customer who gets quite irate about a lot of things. He rang me and told me there'd be an uprising and everything over this. And he'd come from Carcourt. I kind of looked at it along the lines of that if you've got a bus stop out the front of your house and the bus stops there but you don't use the bus, why should you have to pay for it? But then Charlie...
But the way that the water has always worked, like even in Cumnock and Yeovil, they had water that's coming out of the creek, and they still had to pay a charge for the pipe running past their place, and they couldn't restrict it.
Do you have any idea of how many, you don't have any idea how many customers there will be and how much this will raise? Along the same lines as Craig, you know, or Councillor Goswich, is it?
Yeah, it probably goes to the point, Councillor Goswich, you know, is it worth the headache? I guess that was your question, wasn't it?
That's the first question, yeah.
Yeah.
We're running in a deficit model. We need revenue sources, and this is legislative. It's not something that we have to try to consider that's outside of the norm. This is normal practice. It just hasn't been done at CTW. So it's an opportunity for a revenue source. It's an opportunity to provide equity. You look at the principles that, you know, it's whether it encourages development, or that was always the principle, I guess, for the sewer charge. It helps to encourage people to connect and do something with the lot. So there are the principles there. It's legislated. It's a revenue source. It helps with the deficit. In terms of the number, we don't know what the final quantity of vacant lots are going to be. We do know what Cabon and Blaney are in terms of their vacant sewer charges. So we've got that detail. But it could be in the order of 700 lots. But it could be 1,000, might be 500, until we go through the process, which we've started, to understand the quantity. We just don't know yet. We've factored some arbitrary figure in the budget as an income, which
26,000.
so
$26,000.
$26,000 for the 1 quarter for last quarter of this financial year.
So it's potentially $100,000 revenue stream per year.
Yeah. So, I guess to answer your question, are we going to get some people disappointed? Absolutely. Do we have legislative backing? Absolutely. Do we have reasonable principles that describe the reasons why we want to do this? Absolutely. So there's going to be disappointment. There's going to be people who may choose not to pay their bills, and we have a process already in place where we address that through our rating system, water charging system. So we can address those customers who choose not to pay. That's a similar process. So we're not too worried about that, but do acknowledge that we're not going to get 100% satisfaction out of this. People, I don't like to pay anything extra if I don't have to, but I think what we've got to acknowledge and we have to stand on as the foundation piece here is it's legislated, there's good solid principles in this, and we're sharing the cost across everyone who benefits from the scheme.
Sorry, one more question, John. So when we bring this into the final quarter of the year, or the financial year, it's not going to be just Blaney, it'll be the whole 3 shires together at once. Of the sewer connected ones, that's what we're starting with, not the villages to start off with.
Yeah, so in the first...
It's going to be a
months,
job.
We're still unclear as to the workload that's required to go and verify all the ones that aren't yet on the caption under the sewer. We'll have the first phase of this, which will be the sewer, absolutely, and we'll bring others on as we can verify them. So once they're verified, they'll come into the system.
Okay. That's a bit higgledy-piggledy in a way, that's all I'm thinking. Whether we should wait and bring it all in at once, so we can get the flat together, instead of having the fire keep on burning. But, okay, we'll discuss this in the future.
Yeah.
That's a reasonable point.
Yeah.
Councillor Newstead?
Just one quick question. So the mains is 225 metres away from a whole new heap of blocks that different people own. one person says, I want to be connected to the water, so they have to get the new pipeline put there. What happens then when other people start coming on off that? Because it might be another kind of main, it's not just, because I don't understand all the way you talk. It's like when I worked for Essential Energy, if a new power line was built to a farmer a kilometre off the main one, he had to pay for the whole lot. But then when others come on in between that distance, they were supposed to reimburse some of the money back. Now, how that happened, I don't know. So what happens in that situation? If you've got a block 224 metres away from the mains, and there's other blocks there, but they don't want to put the water on yet, not for 10 years. So somebody puts that new main in, and then the others decide, oh, well, now he's put that in. How do I get into that?
You charge those people.
Well,
John,
can
this
you?
new yeah, well, you can.
They would be charged the vacant charge.
Yeah, but
the developer, what I'll call it the developer, but the person who wants water access to their site has to pay for the infrastructure to enable that. It's the first person is obviously the most disadvantaged, because it could be his next door neighbour that says, well, there's a pipe there now and I'm paying vacant charges, I now want to connect. And they get the added advantage of this person has had to pay for infrastructure to go in. So we don't have a system in place like Essential Energy, nor do we want that. That's an administrative nightmare. So the current practice is, if it costs to extend the reticulation and provide a service to a lot, the property owner pays for the costs associated with that.
225 metres or 224 metres, that's a fair bit.
There's
That's cost you a lot
opportunities.
of money.
Like we have to develop, which we've partway through, is the procedures, which the procedures go through to some of those technical, can this lot be serviced? So you throw the 225 metre blanket over it, and then we've got to go and validate each one of those lots. So can it be serviced? Is it reasonably practicable to get the service there? That's going to be yes, no in the majority of the cases, and there's going to be a few that we just have to sit down and we probably play the conservative approach and say, look, that's probably going to be a little bit unreasonable.
So, and same thing, you say somebody was at 224 metres away and they said, no, well, I don't want to ever be connected to your service, I'm just going to have tanks on my block. They still have to pay the access fee.
Not for one price. Oh, yeah.
I think if they were a meter, we might. This is the tricky part. The legislation says 225. We could pick a figure of 100, 150, and there'll be someone that is 149.
Yeah.
So it's 225 is the legislation.
The easier to stick with the legislation.
I think
You've got
so.
the support. You've got the support.
But I think it's, again, on that, is you're charging them for being 225 metres away. And then you have to go, and they say, well, I want to put a meter on now. And we'll say, as a council, oh, that's going to cost you $200,000 because you have to do a main extension. That's what I said previously. And I think that's, how do we justify that? If it's nice and flat, there's no railway line, there's no creek, there's just an extension up the road, how do we justify then charging that person $200,000 to put a main extension? For one block.
Isn't that
No,
gonna
roughly that's what it could cost to put the main extension in, is what I'm saying.
225.
So this is where you come into it says that the land can be reasonably serviced by a CTW connection. So that comes in the fine detail of what you put in your procedures in it of what you consider to be reasonably connected. You put a dollar figure on it. You say anything under $20,000 is reasonably connected. Anything over $20,000 we consider that to be unreasonable. That's the fine details of the policy.
Yeah.
Has to be developed.
You definitely wouldn't want to charge anyone 200,000. I mean, 20,000 is enough. Yeah.
And that's what it comes
More
down to.
book anyway.
Now, do you put a dollar figure on? Do you say yeah, okay, it's got to go over a railway line, but it's going to cost a lot of money to get it under board. And does that create a problem where we've got to quote then on every single, you know, you've got to go through and do the actual quoting of it to work out how much it is going to cost before you actually apply that cost, and so you're putting too much onerous work on staff as well.
I think we've got to the point where I've argued round and round.
I'm not trying not to argue. I'm just-
No, we'll discuss round and round. Look, I think we might put these, do we want to put them all individually or just put them as a bunch? A bunch? Okay. We've already got a mover and a seconder. If there's no other further comments on any of the others, we've been focusing on this one. Any others?
Make a comment on the Gipper one.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely, I hate the process. They charge $30 and cost an awful lot of money for the council, and you're expecting staff to understand that. I think there's about 7 lots of different legislation you have to go through on a Gipper application, and they pay $30 to do it. I think it's, and you go to the state government, and as soon as you ask them about anything, they turn around and say, oh, that's cabinet and confidential, we don't have to provide it. But little organisations like CTW have got to bear the brunt of it all. So that's my personal take on it anyway, but I think it's another thing that once again the small ones have to, you know, we don't have a solicitor on staff and all that sorts of things. But anyway.
Okay. Rant.
That's
noted.
my rant.
Noted and endorsed.
It's the small councils that cop it all the time.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Absolutely.
So look, okay, let's do it all as a bunch. All in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. Thanks. Good discussion. Excellent. Oh, 11.8, the Code of Meeting Practice.
Much been said about it.
The recommendation that the council adopt the draft, which would no longer be the draft, Code of Meeting Practice presented to the meeting. Okay. Have we, it's already gone out to, it has already gone out. Has there been any, no submissions, there it is there, no submissions. Okay, could I have a mover? Councillor Goswich, seconder Councillor Newstead. Leonard, would you like to talk on that?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see, we did, in accordance with the guidelines, exhibit it for 42 days instead of the normal 28 days. And we received no submissions at all regarding the document.
Any comments, questions about this one? We've probably argued it around quite a bit before now. Is everyone reasonably happy with?
Once again, it just seems stupid that we're doing this when legislation hasn't been passed.
Hasn't been
It could be all be rescinded back in February. We could be all going back to the old one. It just seems ridiculous. But anyway,
Well, it is what it is. So,
we might need to get the legislation through, and then we're going to have to turn around and do this again and go back to our old policy. Like, imagine if we acted that way.
oh, yes.
Ho, mum, eh?
Any other rants?
No.
Start it.
Oh, look, we're already underway. In fact, this meeting is our test case for live streaming, and so hopefully that works out well. And so when we dive into it in the new year, we'll be under the new rules if we pass this now.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see what happens. Okay, so look, I'll put that all in favour.
Aye.
Carried. We have a new code of meeting practice starting early next year. Item 11.9, corporate services updates. The recommendation that council note the information provided within the corporate services update. A mover, Councillor Paulette, and seconded by Councillor Best. KTC, okay. Good timing. Okay.
I'm sorry, who was second?
Yeah.
Councillor Best. Would you like to speak to this?
Sure, I'll take it as read. We had 2 minor incidents during the WHS, but no time lost. We are continuing on with our wellbeing morning teas. It also gave us an opportunity to farewell our Director of Finance and Corporate Services, Peter. The risk register is working. We're working away on that, almost completed. It should be ready for the February Council and ARIC meetings. Human resources. Unfortunately, we did actually recruit a technical officer, and the person resigned after 7 days. Can't be helped. So we went back to some of the other applicants that we had. Due to the time frame, we didn't have to go out completely, and we are coming to the end of that recruiting process, and hopefully we'll have someone in the new year to commence in that role. And then the executive manager, management accountant and myself participated in a cyber exercise that the Australian Digital Signals Directorate put on for all of councils, New South Wales councils, which was very eye-opening, and it's a matter of when, not if, cyber comes. But council have a weekly micro cyber training for all of our staff, which they undertake on a weekly basis, and that's at least keeping cyber at the top of everyone's mind. So we're keeping on track with that at the moment.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments from me. The 13 staff commencing their Cert 3 water qualifications, that's magnificent. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I believe that's with support of the JO. The JO.
It is.
So that was one of the benefits of being involved with the JO.
Yep.
We managed to get 13 staff involved in their Cert 3s. That's brilliant. And the other comment I want to make was Charlie and I experienced a talk on cybersecurity. I say experienced at the JO meeting board meeting in Sydney recently, because it was 2 hours of the very, very droll IT expert who is involved, who's now working with the JO. But everyone, you were there, every once in a while.
Josh a hard time?
No, he's wonderful. No, that was the thing. It was fairly droll, and it's a few of us were all sort of drifting away, and then suddenly he'd say something which was of such great importance and such, almost catastrophic, potential, that the whole room went like this, all the way through, about 2 hours worth of this talk. So it really highlighted how cybersecurity is going to be a biggie for us all. Yeah, no, it's a bit scary.
It is very scary. But all we can do is try and prepare as best we can.
Indeed. Are there any questions or comments or questions of Lynette? Charlie? No. All right, well, I'll put that all in favour.
Aye.
It's carried, thank you. And thanks so much for that, Lynette. Okay, 11.10, the investment report. Recommendation that Council note the report on cash investments at 31st of October 2025 and 30th of November 2025. So there's 2 reports there. And mover, Councillor Best and Councillor Newstead. Thank you. And I'll hand it over to the Executive Management Accountant.
Through you, Chair.
Thank
Just to note, we have presented some graphs in here just to show compliance with the policy, just to make it easy to see those limits, and that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, both under the legislation and under the policy. And to say we have done 2 separate sections because it does ask for a monthly report, although we're a bi-monthly meeting, so this would then cover off that requirement.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Claire? Everyone's happy? Yep. No, I was pretty happy with that. Well, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. It's short and sweet. Annual financial statements. Good timing.
Perfect timing, wasn't it?
Good
I
timing.
didn't think that Lynette gave me the heads up.
Perfect timing. So the recommendation there that council receive the 2024-25 financial statements and auditors' reports and note the final management letter. Over mover. Councillor Goswich, Councillor Newstead.
Thank you.
Is that captured? And I note and thank Katie Henry of the Audit Office of New South Wales who has joined the meeting. Thank you, Katie. We're just receiving the presentation here in written form.
Yes. I didn't realise you didn't have a projector down here, so thank you for printing those all out for everyone. I just sent through my presentation. So, good morning, Chair and councillors. Thank you for having me here this morning. And I'm going to be presenting the financial statements for 2024-2025.
Oh, sorry, we should let you know we are live streaming, hence our technical
Wow.
assistance.
You're happy with that?
Yes,
It's under the new rules. We're testing the new code of meeting practice,
okay.
which has been imposed upon us by
Yes.
OLG.
Yes.
So we're having this is our practice live streaming. It is actually live streaming. So I
Excellent.
hope you're happy with that.
Hopefully it's going smoothly for you.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, today I'll be taking you through the results of the 2025 financial statements audit. We'll take a quick look at the Audit Office's audit work program for 2025 to 2028, the focus areas for the upcoming local government sector report, the financial results and analysis of CTW, and the key infrastructure and cash management insights. So the agenda just briefly outlines those topics, and the main topics that we'll be covering today: the Audit Officer's audit work program for 25 to 28, the focus areas for the 24-25 local government sector report, You got it, Charlie.
Do you want to go?
No,
What was your?
CTW's financial results and analysis, cash and investment details, the infrastructure assets overview, and an opportunity to ask questions at the end. However, do feel free to ask along the way if you've got any.
Thank you.
So initially, we'll cover off on the audit work program for 2025 to 2028. The Audit Office performs work not only in financial audits, but also performance audits that they report to Parliament on. The performance audits assess whether the activities of government entities are carried out effectively, efficiently, and in compliance with the relevant laws. The Audit Office's annual work plan for 2025 to 2028 was released in August this year. The work plan explains how they decide what to focus on, what they intend to cover in those 3 years for all the sectors that they audit. So this 3-year plan gets updated annually by the Auditor General and can be revised and adjusted along the way. If you'd like to get updates automatically, you can just go to their website and register, and they'll send you some emails on what they're looking at. But just to cover off on the key themes for 25-26, they had efficiency in the optimal use of public resources, grants administration, major capital projects, climate-related risks and opportunities, and First Nations communities. For their financial audits, that includes financial reporting, financial sustainability, internal controls and governance. So they're all the major topics that we cover off on their behalf. with their planned performance audits, they're looking at long-term financial planning, ARIC effectiveness, performance management and monitoring, major capital projects, climate risk and adaptation, and waste management. I've moved across those quite quickly. They're not all relevant to CTW because it's a sector-wide topics that are selected. They then cherry pick some councils that they're going to do that testing on, and then they present that report to Parliament. And, you know, as we often find, it's quite metro focused. So there are, you know, long-term financial sustainability is obviously effective to everyone. But at the same token, the example councils that they will select are just much, much larger than CTW. But, you know, it's good information as well. And like I said, if you go to their website, you can register for the updates, and then you'll automatically get an email and notification when they have issued their report to Parliament. And any changes that they plan on making to the work program. So the focus areas for 24-25 local government sector report this year. This is a data collection questionnaire that I've been through with Peter, Claire and Lynette this year. And there is, I know you just had a discussion on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a hot topic for the Audit Office as well. And they're also dipping their toes into the AI world too. So this year, the data collections included information on that. From my experience with the councils that I did those data collections with, everybody is at very early stages in the life cycle of AI. And I think the Audit Office is just gathering that information to gauge where the industry is at, to see, because I think every conference that I've been to this year, there's a topic on AI. And a lot of the time, you know, it's quite scary, the stuff that they talk about. But then they also say conversely, if you don't uptake these things, you're just going to be left behind. So it's a real awareness thing, it's an upskilling thing, and obviously taking it on at a level that is appropriate for your entity. And, you know, you wouldn't expect an organisation like CTW to be market leaders in AI. And obviously you would probably work in collaboration with some other similar sized entities and follow their lead to some extent. But it's definitely a moving space. So the key focus areas that I went through with Peter and Claire and Lynette were financial audit outcomes, that's a standard section. Financial sustainability, so looking at your long-term financial sustainability. IT, cybersecurity and AI, they were actually standalone data collection spreadsheets this year. So I think that gives an indication as to where the Audit Office is really going to focus on the next couple of years in this space in their report to Parliament. Major projects, major capital works are always in there. Excuse me. Internal controls and governance. Under the internal controls and governance, they do collaborate everybody's management letter points. So, you know, our interim and our year-end management letters that are presented at your ARICs, they don't name everybody, but they do an industry-wide statistical analysis of what the management letter points are that are coming through the industry. So we expect, or the Audit Officers told me, that this report to Parliament should be issued in early 2026. Now I'll move to our report on the conduct of the audit. We've completed our audit on the general purpose financial statements and the special purpose financial statements. I'm pleased to report to you today that we issued a clean audit opinion for CTW's financial statements for the year ending 30 June 2025. So that means that the financial statements contain no material misstatement and present fairly. The Office of Local Government's Code sets out what needs to be reported in our report on the conduct of the audit. So coming along to the income statement,
This just gives you a brief summary of the main line items on your income statement. You can see annual charges revenue increased by 0.2 million to 2 million this year due to an annual charge increase of 7.35% and new connections added to the water supply network. Your grants and contributions revenue for capital decreased by 2.3 million in 24-25. This was mainly due to a decrease in water supply grant income following the completion of the Cowra to CTW emergency connection project that was completed in 23-24. The operating result from continuing operations, council reported a positive operating result of 0.2 million for 2025. This was a 2.5 million decrease on the prior year, and much of that decrease was due to the decrease in the capital grants that I just mentioned. After deducting capital grants and contributions, you can see on the bottom line item, net operating result before capital grants and contributions. The result is reduced to a loss of 0.4 million, which is a decrease of 0.3 million from prior years. So this shows that without capital grants and contributions, CTW makes a loss. The operating result, this just is a graphical representation of that. And you can see again that decrease down to 0.2 million for 24-25. When capital contributions are removed, it's a loss of 0.4 million. So the key drivers behind this result is higher depreciation. It's up 7.8% this year. Higher materials and service expenses, which is up 20.6%. And lower capital grants and contributions, which is down 81.8%. So the next graph shows the grants and contributions revenue. I do actually have the operating grants revenue in that graph, but because it's such a small amount in comparison to your capital grants, it doesn't show up on that graph. So it is there. Capital grants have decreased to 2.3 million, as I previously mentioned, in relation to the completion of the Cowra to CTW emergency connection project in 23-24. If we move along to the unrestricted current ratio, this year the Audit Office has issued some averages, which is great because in the past, I don't know, however many years, as long as I've been doing it, they've had benchmarks that were just across the industry. So Metro Council, Regional Council, Rural Council all had the same benchmark. This year we finally got a regional, a rural and a metro benchmark. So as you can see here, the average for rural councils in 23-24, so it's a bit of a time lag but still useful, was 5.6, and CTW's unrestricted current ratio for 2025 was 16.2, well above that average, which is a great result for CTW. So cash and cash equivalents and investments. This slide just gives you a bit of a snapshot on your cash balances. So you can see the total cash and investments were 13 million in 2025. This increased from 10.8 million in the prior year. This year we saw 0.2 million as externally restricted, and that mainly consists of developer contributions, specific purpose unexpended grants and other contributions. CTW reported a positive cash and investment balance after external restrictions as at 30 June 2025 of 12.8 million, and that's up from 10.7 million in the prior year. So this is a great, strong cash position for CTW. I just wanted to mention there's a compliance risk in relation to your restrictions. So councils can breach the legislation if they use externally restricted funds for an inappropriate purchase. You need effective controls, internal controls to manage this, but as you can see, your externally restricted is quite low. So there's very low risk of that happening. Restricted and allocated cash. So this just shows a summary of what you do have externally restricted. And as you can see, that's predominantly developer contributions. So your main sources of externally restricted cash cash equivalents and investments include developer contributions of 0.2 million, which increased by just under 0.2 million year on year, mainly due to the developer charges on the new developments. Other externally restricted cash equivalents and investments related to unspent specific purpose grants and other contributions. So that component of it had increased 16,000, so from 12,000 in 2024 to 28,000 in 2025. So I've got a graph here in relation to your liquidity and your available cash to cover expenses. You can see that has also increased year on year. So this is referring to the number of months that the general fund expenses for council can be met with your available cash. So at 30 June 2025, it was 12.7 months. And again, we've now got a rural council benchmark, which is 8 months. So CTW does exceed that benchmark as well, which is a great result.
Yep.
So moving on to infrastructure, property, plant, and equipment. And I've got a graph in there that just shows the split by asset class of where CTW spent their capital expenditure on this year. Just as a brief summary to go with that, additions were represented by council renewed 0.8 million of IPP&E during the 24-25 financial year. And this was mainly spent on the water supply network, 0.6 million was. And then a further 0.3 million was spent on what we call new assets. And that included 0.2 million on the water supply network as well. And that concludes my presentation. I would just like to take the opportunity to thank Peter and the many years of working together. It's been an absolute pleasure. The team and I always look forward to the CTW audit. It's one of our favourites. I'd like to also thank Claire and the finance team for their help throughout the audit process and look forward to working with them again next year. The financials were well prepared as always with appropriate supporting documentation all ready for us to go. As a result, it means that there are minimal adjustments to the financial statements and it makes for a very smooth audit process. So we're very grateful for that. I wish Peter all the best for your well-earned retirement. Happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, Katie.
You're welcome.
And I certainly agree with your comments about Peter's retirement.
Yes.
And to also thank him for his efforts up until that retirement. Yeah, any questions? Thank you so much for that.
Okay, Paul Best from Web.
Yes.
Just
yes.
When you talk about sustainability, council sustainability, how are they going to monitor that? How are they going to, like, if you've got a set of guidelines you're going to work to?
No, we don't as yet. I understand they're trying to develop some guidelines, but again, unless it's a tiered approach, it's not really of much value. So we haven't really been informed. At the moment, my understanding is that we're just to check that you're monitoring it. So it's really putting the onus back onto the individual councils, the ARICs, and that you're well aware of the state of what the council is in, the financial state, as well as the long-term plan for it. So this year, we have always had to ask about the long-term financial plan, but this year they actually got us to get copies of everyone's and check, you know, if it was in the red at any point. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you've got large capital works projects or things like that that, you know, you might not be able to get all capital grants for, but it's just having that conversation with you guys to see, right, so if that is on the horizon, what's your plan for it? How do you plan to get through it? How do you plan to meet your everyday operational expenses throughout that period too? So it's very much from a monitoring point of view at the moment.
So what would you recommend the council do in that space then? Just review those things, or
yes,
review your
yeah, have those discussions, ask those questions of management, and make sure it's adequately addressed if you are going into the red and what your plans are with that.
as you said, like ours is so dependent upon our capital works program, isn't it? Like
Yes.
how much,
Yes.
everything's so expensive.
And you know, historically, CTW has been able to be successful in some significant capital grant funding.
Yeah,
It's political as to
yeah.
where the money gets spent, which is unfortunate at times, and it makes it difficult to secure it at times, but, you know, being ready to jump on those types of opportunities when they do arise is obviously key.
A bit the same as the cyber security, you know, you're saying we're monitoring our progress on that, but it's continually changing.
It is.
From one week to the
Absolutely.
next, there's
That's
something, so I
right.
don't know how are you ever going to reach the point where they say, oh yes, you're doing a great job, this one, you know,
I don't think you ever will.
No.
I don't think you'll ever get a full tick on
Mm.
cybersecurity, and that's the information that we're sort of given, is that it's not going away, and it's just going to be making sure that you guys evolve with the changes as best you can with the resources that you've got.
Thanks for putting that in. That's good.
Yes. No, I'm quite a fan of going back to the audit office on those things, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite frustrating at times that there isn't more of a tiered approach to some of this, but hopefully, the new benchmark figures is a little glimmer of hope that maybe we will be moving more into a tiered approach in the future.
Thank you.
I guess my take on all this is I always feel that an organisation that's small as this but has large assets in a sense. You know, we've got assets that are very ancient in many cases, and we are vulnerable to depreciation shock. And I can see Peter in my
Yes.
background. Yeah, even a relatively small change in many of these measures can have an impact on an organisation that's as small as this one.
Absolutely. And you've got limited opportunities for own source income,
Yes.
which is
Well,
what other
yeah.
councils can buffer it a bit with. But it's tricky for a water-focused entity that's your income stream.
So Katie, what is the GOS on depreciation future outlook? How are they going to treat it?
Well, I haven't heard of any changes, Charlie. I think I can't see any major reform happening in the near future. I would like to see, and I think it is happening in the pipeline, there is a bit of a change. So, a couple of years ago, the Audit Office introduced the need to do that annual indexation. Now they're moving away from making sure that you just assess it, and if it's not a material movement, they're not expecting you to book it. So that might help with not having increased asset values every year. But the initial idea of the indexation was to flatten out that hard hit on the 5th year when you do actually revalue. For you guys, it's your water supply network,
Yeah.
and then you get quite a large jump. So I think they're sort of hovering in the middle there. They're sort of like, we still want you to assess the indexation on the fair value of that asset, as well as your other asset classes. But obviously, like you say, Andrew, the water supply network is your biggest value and obviously has the biggest impact. But yeah, they're only expecting you to book it, which you guys have been booking indexation for your water network long before the Audit Office actually brought it in for all the other asset classes anyway. So it's probably still going to be business as usual for that, I would say. But yeah, depreciation I can't see going anywhere, sorry.
I just heard that they were talking about using historical values rather than
Fair value.
fair value, whether that's a thing yet or not.
The Audit Office haven't said anything about that. We will be starting our planning early in the new year, and that's when they tell us the types of areas that they're looking to be key audit risk areas, and then obviously we tailor that to our specific councils. Fair value is always on there as a key audit risk, so we'll see if there's any more topic. I was going to mention as well that you've got a director rotation with the audit office, so we'll have a new director that we're dealing with, who we have dealt with before, Min Lee. And she's quite reasonable, so hopefully it'll be a smooth transition.
Are there any further questions, Katie? No? Okay.
No, lovely.
Thank you so much, Katie, that was
You're very
wonderful.
welcome.
And it's good that you've given us a clean bill of health.
Yes,
Which
we
is
like
always nice,
those.
always nice to know. So, look, I'll put that all in favour. Aye, that's carried. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.
We very much appreciate it. That was getting close to the last item. The last item are reports of staff. Item 12 is questions on notice. There are no questions on notice. Item 13, confidential matters. There are no confidential matters. Item 14, late reports.
Reports have been addressed.
Have been addressed. We have addressed the late report. Item 15, conclusion of the meeting. So I conclude the meeting at almost midday. So 11:57. And thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you.